this past year, I decided I wanted to hire more people. And I literally went back and found my notes and tracked down Cole's company. Since then, here we are in January of 2025. I've certified about 250 coaches so far, and I've just signed my first $40 billion corporation.
Let's like kind of rewind the clock. So you started out as an attorney. I mean, I'm just curious, like, what made you want to be an attorney in the first place? And we can go from there.
I'm actually half Chinese. So my father was a doctor, and there were only like two acceptable profession when I was growing up. It was just doctor and lawyer. So I think it was really just sort of um, that really drove me initially. Um, but I always really have been mission driven and purpose driven, and I wanted to do things that help people. And I as a lawyer, initially, I really didn't love being a family law attorney, but I love what I do now. I do
Yeah.
have to say that, because I get to help people every single day, and I love having impact. So I do love what I do now.
hmm what made you, because obviously like we can help people in all these different ways. What was like the thing that made you want to transition from one to the next? Like, specifically like helping people or in this capacity, right? And from a coaching perspective.
I saw people in pain. I saw people needing help. And, I didn't know that this is exactly what I wanted to do. I started on YouTube and I made one video on how to negotiate with a narcissist. I thought I wanted to do negotiation in general. I made a few videos on how to negotiate. And I had written a book called Negotiate Like You Matter. Robert Shapiro had written the foreword for that. And I had lectured on negotiation for a long time. And so I thought I was going to do negotiation in general. And I wasn't really getting a lot of traction on my negotiation videos, at least initially. It was like just my mom watching them, basically.
As
And
we all start out.
so, and she's like, "Oh, I watched all your videos," and I was like, "Oh, thanks," And then I did one video on how to negotiate with a narcissist in January of 2020, and I got like 700 views on that one. And I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I'll make more videos on that." Um, and so originally I really wasn't like planning on being like, oh, I don't really want to be the narcissist queen, is like what I
Mm,
kind of said to myself. But I started to get a lot of emails and DMs on, oh my gosh, you saved my life, you saved my kids' lives.
mm,
And I really started to feel like, oh my gosh, I really think like this is what I'm meant to do. Originally, I had started studying narcissism to beat narcissists in the courtroom, and really because I had started to hear people talk about it when I was practicing law, like, oh, my spouse is a narcissist, and so I really started to study the personality type then. And so, it was really kind of driven by that initially. And when I started to get a lot of feedback from people that I was changing their lives, I really started to feel like I'm getting messages from the universe. I know that sounds kind of corny, but like that this is my mission, like this is what I'm meant to do. And now I really do get messages and emails and DMs literally daily, that I'm saving people's lives. And so I do believe that this is what I'm meant to do.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily cheesy because I like, I think it is something that a lot of people talk about, but it's one of those feelings. I was listening to a podcast earlier too. And I get the same thing of like, sometimes you forget that you're impacting so many people because your YouTube channel has 489,000 people there, right? Not saying 489,000 people see every single one, but it just takes one person, like you said, to send that message, and it makes us sitting, because I'm in the studio and I record videos and talk to myself or talk to a camera all day, and it's like, you never really believe, or you never really fully understand like who's on the other end until you get those messages, and that's why I continue to make videos. It's like someone sends me a message and they're like, hey, like you told me to make a YouTube channel, and now, I'm making 100 grand a month because I started a YouTube channel X amount of years ago, you know? Um, so speaking on the YouTube side, because like I think a big thing that I'm even seeing and that I've been pushing, to be honest, especially this year, is starting a YouTube channel, and a lot of people watching this will be business owners that, could potentially start a YouTube channel as well. When did you start your channel? You said 2020 is when you officially started.
2020.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're recording this in 2025. So 5 years to build that audience is pretty massive. I mean, I know we can't give the exact step by step in an hour, but what are some things that you recommend for someone that's looking at, okay, I want to start a YouTube channel. How should they start and maybe see some of the successes that you did?
Yeah. So one of the things that I say all the time, if people want to start a YouTube channel, and it's sort of counterintuitive because people think, oh, that they should go broad, and I always say that YouTube is trying to figure out who you are, so they're looking for a niche. They want to know who you are. So if you're trying to like go broad, they can't figure out who you are. So you have to kind of figure out your algorithms. Like, so you got to figure out like what your niche is going to be. So is it going to be that you are speaking on that you're a woman business owner for menopause and weight loss or something like that? I mean, it's got to be pretty niche. Um, and um, and then you got to make sure that your thumbnails are right, and you got to make sure your titles are really catchy, and you got to make sure that your um, SEO is right. One of the things that I tell people all the time is that they make the mistake of thinking that YouTube is a social media platform, and it really is a search engine. It's the second largest search engine, owned by the first largest search engine. It's a search engine, and it's a beautiful search engine, and it's a perfect search engine for your business. And that's how I've grown my business. I use it organically for my business. I've made millions from it organically because I use it to grow my business, and it's 24/7 free traffic. And so, but you have to really know how to use it, and use it as a platform um, that is really, really specific. So, broad equals broke. There are riches and niches, and make sure that you really, really know who you are on it. You can't just throw things up there. You can't just go, okay, one day I am um, I'm a speaker on I don't know cars, and then the next day I'm talking about furniture, because then YouTube has no idea who you are.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think back to your point, obviously you have a much larger channel than someone starting out, and it's going to take some time to build out. I mean, what we've been able to see just through testing is, and this is just a misconception that I always want people to understand, is that you don't have to have, hundreds of thousands of people watch the videos, right? Like you said, if you're hyper specific on who you're getting in front of, and you have, as we do, right, high ticket offers, then, you can make 100 grand a month with 10 sales, right? So you don't need hundreds of thousands of people to watch each of the videos. Now, that obviously helps, right? Especially because we'll talk about how you kind of scaled your low ticket thing. But yeah, you don't have to have a crazy amount, millions of people following you. So, so you built up the channel, you had, these videos that popped off. So what was kind of the progression of, so you mentioned that you started a low ticket offer. So how did you like come up with that idea? How'd you sell it? All that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I had one video on how to negotiate with a narcissist. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make 8 more videos on negotiating with a narcissist. So I did one on passive aggressive covert narcissist. And then I did one on like a female covert narcissist or something like that. I can't even remember, but I did like 8 more on something to do with negotiating with a narcissist. So I just decided I'm going to do 8 more on that. And what I did was, and you have to be really specific on how you do your videos as well. So I always say there's a hook at the beginning. You tell what the outcome is going to be at the beginning, and then you have like who you are right at the beginning. So within the first 15 seconds, like they know what they're getting out of it, and who you are, why stick around for you, and why stick around for that video, like within the first 15 seconds. And then there's going to be a lead magnet within that video. So like, hey, you want to know more about this? Like, go get my free thing. And then you want to know more about this, go watch my other videos, so that there's some spider web to go watch another video within it. And then ask them to subscribe to your channel at least twice. So, like I knew what to do to grow my channel with the videos as well. And so then within the lead magnet, I had a nurture sequence. So I had at least 5 emails that they were going to get once they opted into my free thing. I now have like 5 lead magnets, but I do still use this one particular thing, which is a Crush My Negotiation prep workbook, which is a 15-page workbook, which allows them to prep for a negotiation. And it's a very, very good lead magnet. So it's not something that's like a throwaway, whatever. It's something that's actually very substantive, which allows them to actually feel like they're getting something. So you give a lot so that they feel like, oh, this person is actually really giving me something. I'm getting a lot of value. And then at the end of that, on the last page, it invites them to a free webinar. And so it's a clickable link on the last page of that free thing. And that invited them to the free webinar. That webinar I did live for probably a year at the time. It's now evergreen, but you validate before you automate. So I validated that webinar to make sure that it was actually something that was going to be, it actually was something that was workable, right? So now I know that it's valid. So that webinar definitely converts. But at the time, I did it live for a long time. But that webinar was at the time was 3 secrets for communicating with a narcissist. I do a lot of different webinars now, but at the time I did that same webinar for probably 3 years. I made probably $5 million on that webinar. And that webinar was a clickable link on the last page of that particular lead magnet. And it was evergreen. People could go to it and watch it. It was in EverWebinar, which was part of Webinar Jam. It was like an hour long, and it led to my $497 product, and they could buy it. It was already in ClickFunnels at the time. I now use Go High Level, but at the time it was in ClickFunnels, and it was already recorded and had a bunch of bonuses and all that sort of thing. So, and I used Russell Brunson's perfect webinar. So that was how I set it up.
Nice. Yeah, that's super, super valuable. Just like the step by step, like a big piece that you mentioned that I 100% agree with is the validate and then automate, right? I think especially now with like, AI and, all these things, like people just want to like AI just like go make me something, and then it's just not validated, right? You don't have anything that's proven. So it becomes very, very difficult to like, maybe it will work a little bit, but you don't know if like it could be at the best possible conversion and click-through rate and offer to close and that type of stuff, unless you, like you said, unless you validate it first.
And,
So
and I will say, let me just say this, those slides were like super janky at the time. Like my slides now are so much better.
yeah.
Like at the time, like they were like not even all that good.
Mhm.
I have a much better slideshow now and everything else. But at the time, I really didn't even know what I was doing back then, 5 years ago. And I made like $5 million on that. I mean, I'm so much better at all of that now.
Mhm.
As you said, there's AI, there's ChatGPT, and all these other things now. I didn't have any of that then.
Mhm. Yeah, it just goes to show like how much better just doing it is than like trying to make it perfect, Yeah, validate
Hmm.
and then automate. I feel
Hmm.
like there is this kind of like, in the market, there's always like there's this pendulum of like I think, before it's like no one really knew how to do it, so they like it didn't really matter the quality. And then like more and more people started doing it, so like the higher quality was like kind of being, it was seen as like better, right? But I think there's like this, from what I've seen at least, kind of like a pendulum coming back the other way of like less professional seems more like trustworthy. I don't know. We've been testing a lot of stuff with like, really good landing pages versus now it's just like it's one of the we just call it our ugly landing page because it's just like white screen, headline, video versus like, the colors and the images and high quality like that type of thing. So anyway, that's a completely different side topic. But so you had the 497, you were selling that, did 5 million in sales with that. So then how'd you transition into the next part of the coaching and the certification?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, my business exploded so fast. It took me so long to fill in the infrastructure because, as you can imagine, I had so much going on the back end because I was um, getting millions of DMs. My everything was exploding on the back end. So I was like hiring VAs. I was trying to get everything going on in the back end to get everything going. So it took me a couple of years before I got my certification launched. And at the same time, I was trying to get a book written. So it was in 2023 that I finally got my book written, my certification launched. Um, so I launched my high conflict negotiation certification in July of 2023. My book was launched in October of 2023. And since then, it's now, here we are in January of 2025. I've sold about 250 of my certification. So I've certified about 250 coaches so far. And now I've launched my Harmony Works, which is my corporate certification for corporations. And I do have a new website up now. And I've just signed my first corporation. It's a $40 billion corporation. And I'm taking about 12 of my uh, corporate trainers. And so everything builds on each other because now that I have 250 certified coaches, my certified coaches can come with me as trainers on my corporate jobs. And, at this point, it's an epidemic. There's an epidemic of high conflict people in this world. So corporations are spending about $359 billion on high conflict employees. Managers are spending about 42% of their day on high conflict employees. So there's an epidemic in a need for training in high conflict. And there's a void in it. So, what I feel is this need for high conflict training and corporate high conflict resolution training, conflict resolution, communications training. And it builds on each other because we've got the people who have been trained in high conflict negotiation certification, and then they come with me on my corporate training.
Yeah, back to what you said of like, each thing building on each other. I think it's super cool to just kind of hear the whole progression of how one has led to the other because, a lot of times people would, they'd be discouraged with their first thing but understanding that like just unlocking whatever that first thing is could unlock so many other things that, I mean, you've obviously proven through what you've done. I'm curious, what was so you brought in the 250 coaches, because again, we have business owners, right? It's like, what was the price point of that for people to like get certified?
6,000. It's 6,000 to get
Okay.
certified.
Okay, perfect. So basically 1.5, you did the 1.5 mil from that, just building on top of that, which is, I mean, that's amazing. And then you now can give them the opportunity to then, go into some of these other corporations, which is kind of similar to what we used to have our B2C program, which we like built up salespeople, then we took those salespeople and then placed them into, STA so it's kind of a very synergistic type offer. Are you still bringing people, are you still signing people for that, for the coaching to certify them?
Oh yeah, I mean that's so we've got the $6,000 offer, which that's why I hired STA, because our closers are closing those. And then I actually am now going to be launching a $9,000 offer, which is going to be what I call a freedom formula. To it's basically just more like a full I'm white labeling GHL and giving them a little bit more so that they get like done for you funnels, done for you email nurture sequences, so they get a little bit more,
Yeah.
so that as coaches they can actually launch their coaching career and have a little bit more, and actually learn from me a little bit more, get their YouTube launched and learn from me. But because what I'm finding is that once they get their coaching certification, they want more from me,
Mm.
and so I'm going to give them more for that. But am finding that every step of the way, there's so much more that we can offer. So we've got the freedom formula, we've got the high conflict negotiation certification, we've got Harmony Works for the corporate solution. But because there's such an epidemic in high conflict people, there's so much that we can do. There's just so much that we can do, and it's just keeping me so busy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine like if you're doing stuff on YouTube, you have these like these multiple offers and stuff like that. So yeah, I could only imagine what the day-to-day looks like.
Yeah.
What for the when you're working with the businesses and the higher level businesses, is that like more, is it case by case of the pricing? I'm just curious of like what like that looks
Yes.
like in the pricing.
Yes. So how that works is that we do a 1 day immersive or a 2 day immersive to start. And the pricing on that varies whether or not I actually do it or one of my trainers does it. And then we do 12 weeks of coaching. And then that varies depending on how many coaches are needed, and whether or not I'm on that or my coaches are doing that, and how many they need, right? And then there's usually a half day wrap up for that. And so like the one that we just signed a $40 billion company. I'm doing the 1.5 day immersive to start. And then we're doing 12 weeks of coaching. I'm going to be coaching the CEO. We're taking 12 coaches with us on that. We're coaching the executive leadership team. And then we're also coaching the vice presidents. And then we're doing a half day immersive to wrap up. So it's a 6-figure contract. That's a 6-figure contract.
Nice. Let's go.
Yeah.
And and you said so you're the coach, you're doing the immersive, the in-person thing, but your
Yeah.
coach is kind of managing the rest of it then, other than some
Mhm.
other maybe one-on-one stuff you're doing.
I'm doing I will be coaching the CEO one-on-one.
Okay, perfect.
Hmm.
That's exciting. I love it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a little early in the interview, but I want to definitely maybe 6 months from now we can catch up again and see kind of where that is. So back to what you kind of mentioned it there, because I'm trying to figure out like kind of the timeline. So I guess how did you originally find STA, and then where in the journey were you when you came on? I know you said it was mid last year, but where kind of how did that come together?
I originally found STA because I actually, it was a couple of years ago. I was still writing my book when I was invited on a cruise during Traffic and Conversion by Pete Vargas
Hmm.
and Randy Garn, and Cole Gordon was invited to speak. And I heard him speak. And I thought, oh, if I ever decide I want to hire closers, I think I'll go to that company.
Hmm.
And I didn't even have a sales team at that point. But I thought, oh, if I ever decide to hire a sales team, I think I'll use that company. And I had written his name down, and I had a sales team. I had a little sales team this past year. That I had found a couple people on LinkedIn or whatever, and then I decided I wanted to hire more people, and I literally went back and found my notes, and went back to track down Cole's company.
Yeah.
Um, and I asked a friend, hey, did you ever know anybody that hired somebody from this company? And then I just tracked him down. Um, so that's how I ended up hiring him this year.
That's so funny because I mean this is probably episode 15, 16, and every time it's been like, oh, I saw an ad, or oh, I saw him on YouTube or whatever, but you just so happened to be on a cruise with Pete Vargas, and he and Cole spoke, and that's I think that's kind of just different. um
Yeah.
so based on that, what was so you correct me, you got closers from us and you went through the whole recruiting process then, and they're still with you, the closers?
Yeah, I work with Temple.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, I guess closers for like that are closing your deals for you, like through recruitment.
Yes, I use people from closers. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have two setters and two closers.
yeah, one of the questions that a lot of people have is just like kind of the overall experience of like how that goes. So, do you mind just kind of like breaking down like how did you get like I guess in front of those people? How did the interviews go? That type of thing?
Oh, yeah, no, I love it. I love Temple. I love the people. I use all of the processes. I use um the templates, the forms. I do the huddles every day. I make my team go to all of the calls. I make them go to Dave Davidson's call every Monday and Temple's call every Thursday.
Yeah.
I make them put the end of day reports and did you go to the calls and what did you get out of it? And I do all the stuff. I drink the Kool-Aid.
There you go. Yeah, one thing you meant, like we were talking a little bit before, and you mentioned like because we were talking about a big piece that a lot of people are wondering about is like revenue and stuff like that. And you mentioned there hasn't been like a massive revenue jump. However, there were those couple things that you had to kind of like go down and rebuild, and you kind of mentioned it there. But like, what were if you can give like three main things that you've come in and implemented and it's made a big difference, what would those things be?
I think for me, it's definitely the systems and the processes and the professionalism. Like for me, it's like I have a coach that I work with, and I really feel like I had to. We talk about like we burn it to the ground so that we could rebuild, like so that we got just like getting rid of the negativity that I had, and making room for the positive and making room for we're starting 2025 in the right way so that we can create from positivity and getting rid of any energy that wasn't serving. and create from lightness and joy and positivity. That's where I'm at.
There we go. What are some goals like that we have if we're looking at 2025, let's say over the next 6 months, like what are some things that you're looking to achieve both, financial, but also just like in general, like what are things that you want to achieve?
Oh, I mean, financial abundance, and this is what I tell my team all the time, is means that we're making an impact. Your financial abundance is directly related to how many lives you're changing. And so if you are changing a lot of lives, that means that you are also achieving a lot in your financial abundance. They're directly related to each other. So if you're seeing a lot of financial abundance, that means you're changing a lot of lives. So
Yeah.
I want to see a lot of financial abundance, but I also want to change a lot of lives.
And it comes like you said, right? It comes as a byproduct of that. So
It's
it's
a
like as
byproduct.
a byproduct of just making your videos and helping people with getting over their own limiting beliefs or just helping them with that step by step. It's like as a byproduct of just doing that, you're attracting people that are connected with you and they want to they're basically paying for that proximity. Um, so I guess for anyone that's listening up to this point, actually, I'll say this. I want you to think about basically one thing that you would give to someone like listening to this, like understanding it's probably a business owner or something like that. Just think about that for like 30 seconds. I'm going to do a quick outro and then I'll come back to you and ask you. So, those of you that are watching this episode, you've made it this far. So you're probably, thinking, okay, cool. Like, you helped Rebecca and what are like the specific processes of like, how can I implement those same processes and implement in your business or, hire a setter or closer, things like that. What I want you to do is click the link down in the description of this video or in the show notes in the podcast and it'll just bring you to a really quick video of my business partner Cole, and he just broke down, really how we can overall help, and if we can, well, we can talk about what that looks like. If we can't, then obviously, we'll push you in the right direction and give you some resources that you can use. So that being said, click the link down below. Rebecca, what do you got? What's like your big tip for someone listening and leaving the episode?
Mm. Well, one thing I always say in negotiations and in just life in general is you and you alone define your value. People will think what you tell them to think. So, you define your value with how you carry yourself, with the energy that you bring to the room. So that's what I always say.
There we go. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for jumping on and spending the time. I know you have a lot of this, all these different offers and stuff going on, so I appreciate you taking the time and chat with us. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, how you can help them, if they need help negotiating? Where can they find you?
Well, my YouTube channel is rebeccazung.tv. My website is rebeccazung.com. Everything is Rebecca Zung. So
Amazing. We'll leave those down in the description below as well. And thank you guys for hanging out on another episode of Scaling Less Stupid. See you guys in the next one. Talk soon. Peace.